After studying the two post-fertilization events, that is endosperm and embryo development, the third event comes the fruit formation and seed development. This event is the last stage of the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. As discussed earlier in the previous sections, the fruit is formed from the mature ovary or ripened ovary, while the seed is formed from the mature ovule. In case of seed, the ovules mature to form a hard covering-like structure which is known as seed. Here the wall of the ovule becomes hard and is known as pericarp. This wall of ovary that develops into fruit is known as pericarp of the fruit. This mature or ripened ovary gets transformed into swelled-like structure which is known as fruit. Now, this developed fruit can be also various types like the parthenocarpic fruit or true fruit. This true fruit can also be either flesh or dry. Parthenocarpic fruit is the fruit that is formed without fertilization, like banana. On the contrary, the true fruit is the fruit that develops from the ovary, which can be either fleshy or dry. This depends on the walls of the fruit whether they are fleshy or dry. Thus, the types of fruits can be defined on various bases, like first, on the basis of the fruit development. It can be classified into true or false fruit. True fruit is the one which develops from the ovary. And the second type comes is false fruit. That is the fruit which develops from any other part other than ovary, like for example thalamus, like in apple. Apart from that, depending on fruit, it can arise from any other part of the embryo other than ovary. Definitely this involves female gametophytic parts. In case of dry fruit, depending on the nature of the wall of fruit, fruits can be again classified into two, that is dry, that is the pericarp or the fruit wall is dry, and the second type is fleshy, in which the pericarp or the fruit wall is fleshy in nature. Examples of dry and fleshy fruit is, for dry fruit it comes groundnut and mustard. And examples of fleshy fruit includes mango and guava. There is also another kind of fruit known as parthenocarpic fruit. The fruits which we have studied till now were all developed by the fertilization of the egg cell, but parthenocarpic fruit are the only fruits that develops without fertilization. Example of such a fruit includes banana, where no fertilization occurs. Apart from that, parthenocarpic fruits can also be produced by inducing the growth hormones into various plants that results into the formation of seedless plants. Or fruits. Thus parthenocarpic fruits can be termed as a seedless fruit. Apart from that, there are many fruits that have been developed by the mechanism of dispersal of seeds. There are various examples of fruits which possess a specialized shape for the dispersal of seeds. For example, the first plant that comes is Vernonia, which possesses a pappus shape. Then comes the second plant, that is Calotropis, which possesses a coma shape, that is a white silky-like structure which helps it in the dispersal of seed. Then the third plant that comes is Xanthium, which possesses a stiff hair-like structure which helps it in the seed dispersal mechanism. Another example of it includes cotton, which possesses a hairy outgrowth like structure. Another example of it is of a plant of Rulia, in which it possesses specialized structure known as jaculator in form of seeds, which helps it in the disposal mechanism. As we have already studied in the previous section that in plants like angiosperms, the seed is considered as the final product of the sexual reproduction of the flowering plant. The seed that here it is formed is also known as fertilized ovule, since after the fertilization of this ovule, the seed formation occurs. As we all know that seeds are formed inside the fruits, such a seed typically consists of three regions. First is the outer seed coat, following it occurs cotyledon, within which an embryonic axis occurs. This embryonic axis differentiates or divides the two seed coats and cotyledon. The cotyledons of the embryo are considered as the simple structure which are thick and swollen in nature. This swelled portion occurs because it acts as a storage of food material. That is, it acts as a reservoir of food material. Now, mature seeds can be either endospermic or non-endospermic. That is, two types of mature seeds occur. Definitely, the name suggests that endospermic seeds are the seeds which possess an endosperm, and on the contrary, non-endospermic seeds are the seeds which do not possess an endosperm. Non-endospermic seeds lack endosperm because these are completely consumed during the embryonic development. On the contrary, it retains as a part due to incomplete embryonic development. Thus, within embryonic seed, incomplete embryonic development occurs. While in non-endospermic seed, complete embryonic development occurs. Examples of endospermic seed include maize, which is a non-endospermic seed and lacks endosperm, while pea is an example of endospermic seed containing endosperm due to incomplete embryo development. Following it, as the seed matures, its water content gets reduced and the seeds relatively become dry. Thus, in matured seed, reducing water content makes the seed dry. Due to the production of dry seed, the metabolic activity of the embryo gets slowed down. That is, the metabolic activity gets decreased. As a result of which, the embryo enters into a stage of dormancy. That is, a state of inactivity called dormancy. Since the metabolic activity decreases, the embryo becomes inactive and enters into the dormancy period. And thereby, gradually with time, if the favorable conditions arises, then after dormancy, the gradually starts germinating. Thus, germination of seeds occur in presence of favorable conditions. These favorable conditions includes various factors like water, moisture, then sufficient temperature, oxygen, and many others. Now, as we all know that seed is the basis of our agriculture, the dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are very important. and their importance occurs for the storage of seeds. Because when the embryo becomes inactive, at that time the seed storage becomes more viable. As a result, the food can be stored throughout the year. Moreover, this can also raise crop in the next year. There are a few species in which the seeds lose viability for a few months. However, there are a few species in which the viability is lost for several years. Moreover, there are a few seeds which can remain alive for hundreds of years.